I really thought of you this week with name, image, likeness. And, so I've had enough friends that do what you do. They're high-end college athletes. And I'm not a moralist. You listen to me on the air. I was pro smoking pot 20 years ago. I don't care. I really don't. And I was always understood to me, Mark, that listen, if you're Mark Sanchez, you're a star at Texas, you're going to get $100 handshakes. Nobody really cares. And I look at it now and I'm like, it's almost absurd. I mean, I think about this. There was a point in America not long ago. In 1989, you could smoke on airplanes. What? It wasn't long ago. Gay marriage was outlawed. What?
Right.
And literally an hour ago, you couldn't pay a player like Reggie Bush, Mark Sanchez, or Matt Leinart. And I look at it and I think it's almost embarrassing. Did you ever resent it when you were at USC?
See, you make some incredible points. And I think you have a good perspective on this, but it didn't even cross my mind. And I feel like such a dumbass now, right? Like I saw him selling the jerseys. I saw him, how much money goes into those Rose Bowl ads. You know how much money the team gets. And I just thought, dude, I'm here to ball. I got to get my degree and I want to go play in the NFL. And I love USC and we get a lot of cool gear. They're paying for my food. They're paying for my school. Sweet. But I also came from, my dad was a firefighter. He made decent money as a fire captain for a while. So I wasn't in a lot of economic struggle. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor. And I never had to I never got a Pell Grant like Ray Maluga, like other guys on our team, and sent that money home. These dudes were budgeting before I even knew what a budget was, right? I have to budget am I putting gas in my car or am I getting groceries? Because do I want to drive guys to the airport when they go home? Or do I want to go back home to Orange County? Or do I want food for the week? When we're off school, when we're spring break or whatever. But these guys are okay, I got to send $500 home, another $200 to my cousin. All right, I got another couple $100 after rent. And they were really doing that in school. And if you think about it now, these guys can go to the Boosters Golf Club because these boosters are pumping money in the program. Now they're going to be able to guarantee recruits we got 10 speaking engagements for you. You can probably make $150,000 and show up at the golf club, show up at the restaurant, show up at whatever, do the chalk talk with, name your sponsor, USC, name your sponsor, Texas, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida. It's a no-brainer. The other thing that I thought was silly with all this is that football pays for most everything, right? I've heard you say that. I know that for a fact. That's not a football is better thing. That's just a fact. But the soccer players and swimmers that go win gold medals and stuff and can't do a summer camp and advertise about it on Instagram and make $50 a head and get, 100 kids at their camp. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. So the fact that they can do it now, God bless them. That's awesome. And I left a lot of money on the table, I guess. I didn't even think about it.
Well, it's funny because there's 3 college athletes in my life, Vince Young, Reggie Bush, and Tebow, where there was just something. These are big brand program. Johnny Manziel's great, but Texas A&M isn't a blip on the screen compared to USC and Texas. So when Reggie Bush was at his height, you were like a red shirt. You were like a red shirt freshman. Tell people how big Reggie was. Just a sense. Because I don't think the rest of the country, we had no NFL in Los Angeles.
No, yeah. It was, he couldn't go anywhere. It was like Elvis or something. I'd never seen anything like it. And people were making money selling shirts that said Bush Leinart for president because that was the year that it was Bush and whoever, Cheney or whatever. And Reggie got no part of that. We all had the shirts. We all thought they were cool. We all bought them for $15 or $10. They were cool. But the guy could have just exploded, especially in LA. It was USC football. There's the Lakers, Kings, Dodgers, whatever. But USC football was a big deal, especially with Pete Carroll and the way he had celebrities in there. Snoop Dogg's at practice. Will Ferrell's on the sidelines. away NBA teams. I remember Carmelo Anthony was playing for the Nuggets. They come into town and play the Lakers. He's at our game on the sidelines just to come check it out, just because, like, that's the place to be. USC is the place to be. So, yeah. I mean, Reggie would have just raked in some serious money. And this is before social media. This is before, like, Facebook was barely starting. Twitter, nope. Instagram, not even close. TikTok, none of that. I mean, look at the two gals from Fresno State. I mean, they're doing a full media tour in New York. It's awesome. They got their thing in Times Square, and you know, they do these dances on TikTok. I mean, they're probably gonna make $100,000 and split it between them. That's awesome. Like, I mean, it's just, I read something about De'Ara King too. I mean, he's doing a bunch of stuff with like 3 main companies. He said he wants to sign like a group deal with all of his O-linemen, and then they split all the proceeds. Boom, you get everybody to go and talk to a thing. You could set that up so easily now. But Reggie would have been, I mean, just incredible.
Do you listen, everything, you know, nothing's perfect. Now everybody is like on it's great for everybody. I imagine some players will like the money more than they will their sport. You know, it's like, it's been the knock on Juju Smith-Schuster. He's better on TikTok than Sunday sometimes.
Yeah.
The consequence of it, is there anything you look at and go, ooh, that'll get a little crazy maybe?
It's just one more step to the irrelevance of the NCAA. And it's, you know, the conferences have the powers and there's a hierarchy there. And the NCAA is just slowly relinquishing, you know, their influence, because what are they going to do? As soon as the SEC says, hey, we're out, what are they going to do? It's just like it's just like, kind of like, all right, we're part of your thing. There's no like lawsuit that happened. Like, they're just gone. Like, see you later. So I don't, it's really, for a lot of people that are just like, hey, rules are rules and this is how it's done, you know, tradition over the truth kind of thing. I don't know what to tell you. It's just, the world's different. The cat's out of the bag. The guys know how much influence they have now. Like you even said, the best ones, the best groups, the best, you know, licensing agreement people are going to figure this thing out. And there's going to be 5 or 6 that are really good at what they do. And they're going to sign all the athletes, and they'll have a bunch of, you know, recruiting power and money and all that. And they'll do it the right way. But the NCAA is essentially gone. I mean, what are they going to do? Some of these rules are so great. Like, if your state says, you know, we don't have any rules yet, the NCAA laid out these loose guidelines. I mean, I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that the NCAA doesn't come down on someone in one of those states for not following these guidelines. And they say, oh, you used it as a recruiting tool or whatever. Like, good luck with that one, because people are just going to go nuts. Like, once they've allowed this and then they try and slap somebody on the wrist for it, I mean, it'd be curtains right there. So they're just going to let this thing play out.
There was always a sense, Kirk Herbstreit and I talked about this one time, where USC was very interesting. The Miami Hurricanes and USC, I think college football misses both. They're big city brands. And college football now feels a little Southern and a little rural dominated. And I think there's room for a Miami or you know, University of Washington's in Seattle, USC or a UCLA in Los Angeles. So I imagine when you played, there were agents around the practice. I mean, this idea that Miami and LA, that's where all the agents are. Like, when you were a Trojan, weren't there agents around the field?
Oh, I mean, and it's not like the main guy, like Tom Condon and Dave Dunn didn't just like walk on our practice field unless they had like a relative or somebody. Right. But like, there's people that work for all these guys that like handle this. And while they're saying these rules are like, you know, this can't be an agency that's directly affiliated. Well, if you have any kind of affiliation with an agency and now you're into this name, image, likeness deal, and that's what you do, you go basically market for these players, but you have a relationship with CAA or Athletes First or whoever, you're going to just feed these guys right to them, especially if they've made you money. Like, if this guy's making me $100,000, $200,000 in college and then says, hey, these people will do your marketing just like we did, and they have a football sports agency, you're going to be like, all right, sweet, dude, thanks. This was cool. But the NCAA is like, no, you can't do that. Like, how are you even going to regulate that? How do you, I don't know. It's just,
if you look at the history mark of the NCAA, they only catch cheaters when some team turns them in. It's not that they have this police force that they catch. No, it's somebody calls in. It's a rival. They lose a recruiting battle. Alabama or Auburn.
But you're telling me, you're telling me nobody's called in on Alabama. They just don't answer the phone when it's about Alabama.
No, I actually think Nick is smarter than everybody. And I think I don't think Nick can dissuade a Bama booster from giving $100. But I think Nick scares some boosters, and Nick is the kind of guy, he'll cut a booster off. So I do think you have to have a coach with a presence. Like Clay Helton's a nice guy.
I get it. But like, okay, if Alabama and Clemson are taking the two best quarterbacks out of Orange County, California, the ones who are supposed to go to USC and UCLA, like, like if I asked those guys in high school, all right, show me Tuscaloosa and show me wherever the heck Clemson is. Okay, go. Show me. They have no clue. No clue. So I just think it's interesting. Maybe they have some sort of caller ID at the NCAA office. It's just like, the old school call regarding Alabama. And they just click it to voicemail. We're not taking that.
It is weird. One of the things I've said to friends, it's one thing if California loses a player to, say, Texas, because Texas has a little bit, Austin has a little bit of a West Coast vibe. Yeah. Or Michigan, they're in the Rose Bowl all the time.
Miami.
But when I see California losing players to the Deep South, my takeaway is, I got to be honest, I'm cynical.
Yeah, I am. But it was even like when I was being recruited, it's become more of a thing now because those teams are good. So you see it. But when I was being recruited, I remember telling my high school coach, like, I got this letter from LSU. It's going to be awesome. I want to go there. He's like, why? I was like, have you seen their uniforms? And they have a real tiger at the games. And he's like, do you even know where Baton Rouge is? I was like, yeah, it's kind of by New Orleans. He's like, yeah. Okay. Have you ever been there? I was like, no, of course not. He's like, dude, go throw a couple game-losing interceptions. These fans will be pissing on you as you're walking out of the stadium, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, it's like that. He's like, let's just do a little research first before we decide on LSU, okay? So, I mean, I just had no clue because I grew up here in California and, you talk about this all the time. So everything's awesome, right? Like,
so
other than the taxes.
Yeah. 5-star athlete Mark Sanchez comes out today. What would be your top 5? Now, I mean, consider the state of USC. Consider the state of Texas. What would be your top 5 today? And I want you to consider name, image, likeness too.
Yeah. So name, image, and likeness is a huge recruiting tool for USC. And hopefully that can kind of prop them up a little bit because there's so much available in LA. But you got to go with the big ones. It's Texas, it's Alabama, it's Clemson, it's Ohio State. Those would definitely be some visits for me. Maybe Notre Dame. I tripped to Notre Dame and Ohio State when I was in high school. Trip to Texas. And I mean, those schools are the top ones, but I looked at who's putting out quarterbacks and they happen to be doing it an hour away from my house, right? At USC with Pete Carroll, with Norm Chow, with Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. So it was right there. Plus the other big factor for me coming out was, where am I going to be for the rest of my life? Like if I go get my degree in Baton Rouge, like, am I going to settle down there? Am I going to live in Columbus, Ohio for the rest of my life? I don't know, but I can see myself at least coming home. So if I can stay home and go to a great university near home, and that's where I want to live forever, that might not be a bad gig. So it's a little different coming out of California, but if I'm 18 years old, I mean, USC hasn't been great for a while now. So I would have been real little when I was in the Rose Bowl, I would have seen them, I don't know, maybe at 10 years old, watch Sam Darnold win the Rose Bowl. So it's like, they weren't like on the map, like, Sports Illustrated cover Matt Leinart catching the reverse pass against Michigan, Carson Palmer, first pick overall, holding his Bengals jersey. Like, I wouldn't have had that influence for these kids in Orange County now. That's why the DJ Uiagalelei and who's the kid from Alabama?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Thank you, from Mater Dei. I mean, the fact that both of those guys left the state, that's I mean, Ed Ogeron said this. I went to go visit them 2 years ago, right before they go bananas and on their big run with Joe Burrow and all that. I went to a team meeting, and Ed Ogeron recruited the heck out of me from USC or to USC. And then he ended up leaving right when I was getting there. But we remained close. We remained cool. He let me walk in. The first thing he did was put his arm around me, and he walked me in his office at LSU, and he handed me some 30-pound dumbbells. And he's got this rack of weights in his office, and he said, "Hey, let's get a little arm work in. Come on now. Hey, don't forget the shoulders now. Don't forget those shoulders." And I'm like, oh my God. He said, "Hey, how your daddy doing? Is he still fighting them fires out there? Man, you're a tough son of a bitch now." He was just wearing me out. It's like we literally hung up the recruiting phone call, and then I showed up in his office, 15 years later, and nothing changed. And it was awesome. Well, he lets me go down, and now I'm blanking on where I was going with the damn story.
Who cares?
Sorry. We go, no. I know
the impression was so damn good, it doesn't matter.
We were, hey, thank you, Colin. Big fan, go Tigers. Ogeron. So he lets me in, boom. We're sitting down in his office. I spoke to the team. I'm at practice. He was awesome. Everything was great. But he and I look back on when SC was USC. And he was just like, man, I mean, we used to see other coaches show up in Southern California to recruit players at high schools. Okay. He's like, this was when the SC interlock on our polo held a lot of weight. Okay. We would see other coaches show up at high schools, and we would look at them and be like, "Are you guys on vacation? What are you doing? Like, why are you here? You don't even belong here. Look at this. Look at this SC interlock. Get out of here. Enjoy your time at the montage." Okay. Like, see ya. That was like the way it was. It was a big deal. So hopefully this name, image, likeness stuff can come around.
That's the best Ogeron. I'm not seriously. I've heard 20 of them. That is the best one. Easy.
Here's the other thing. I didn't realize that they don't like you doing that impersonation. At least, I don't know if it's Coach Ogeron personally or the school, or it's like, this like Cajun kind of thing or whatever. But I spoke to the team. He like out of nowhere says, "I got a quarterback here that I know very well, played in the NFL, blah, blah. He wants to talk to the team." And I was like, "I don't want to talk to the team. I wanted to come watch the team. I wasn't here to talk to the team." And he said, "No, come on up, And so I did Coach O's impression in front of the team. And these guys were like, nobody does that, bro. So Burrow kind of said that after, like, "Oh yeah, it's not really like that cool." I was like, "Oops." He's like, "You were pretty good though."